Hello, I'm Caleb Noble, and this is my author discussion. I've already recorded this once, but then I've learned when playing it back, I didn't have my microphone on. So, anyway, also don't mind the birds if you hear them. I'm recording in a room with three birds in their cage. So, if they talk, just enjoy the exotic atmosphere. But yes, I'm talking about Langston Hughes, the African American poet and author, and I'm going to try to focus on one specific section of him. I'm going to try, since I know everyone's going to have to watch and read through quite a few of these author discussions, I figured I'd only focus on at least one part of him. So, bear with me. So, his history, Hughes is well known for portraying African American history through his writing from the 1920s, which featured, the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan. The actual U.S. president was noted member of the Ku Klux Klan, or in Woodrow Wilson's case, they were insanely racist. Well, okay. Anyway, I got a bit off track there. But Hughes is well known for portraying African American history through the 1920s through the 1960s, which is of course the Civil Rights Movement. So hopefully Hughes got to at least witness at least some progress in his life. He spent time in many places. Like his father, I believe, is from Mexico, and he spent time in Mexico. He also spent time in New York City, and he's lived for part of his life in Washington D.C. So I mean, quite an interesting time to be, quite an interesting quite an interesting setting to be experiencing. But the thing that's also noted about Hughes' writing is that Hughes would not differentiate between his experiences and the common African American experience at the time. He didn't just because he had special treatment or what he perceived as maybe a bit more of a privileged treatment. It didn't really matter. He still wrote about the common African American experience at the time. He didn't sugarcoat. He tried not to sugarcoat. He still told it like it was. Tell it like it is. He still told it like he felt it was. So part of the anthology that I read, I wanted to focus on one part, and I wanted to mention his strategy to hide politics in his writing with poetry. Um, Basically, it was a form of disguised propaganda almost. Like when he writes, he's able to put his political opinions in, and it doesn't seem forced. He kind of disguises it. And judging by my personal experience, because I've done this a lot in my life, it's a very, very tough skill to master. Hughes does not get enough credit for this. He does not get enough credit for being able to just hide his politics in there, or being able to disguise his political views inside his writing. So I decided to highlight the I Two poem as an example here. So let me let me read it. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. And honestly, this I select this poem because it's a perfect example of his disguise. It's a disguise because the entire poem is a protest against racism. Q still claims himself to be part of America, even though he's essentially ostracized at this time. And basically, he mentions it by saying, "quote He's sent to eat in the kitchen." He's hidden. Basically, a lot of portrayals of America at this time, they always hid Black America, even though Black America has some of the most awesome stuff possible, like some of the most interesting features, some of the most interesting music. I've never gotten it, but basically, Hughes Lance's role in American society, it is in the poem, is disguised to still feel empowering, despite the negative, despite the political undertones of it. It still feels empowering. He still says, he's still America. You're still proud to be American, even though he's cast aside. It's a weird disguise. Even though even though even though African Americans still face racism, he's still writing about how powerful they are and how they will still persevere through it. This entire poem, um, there's a certain line that I want to highlight. I too sing America. That is from Walt Whitman. That's a reference to Walt Whitman's famous author and writer Walt Whitman's "I Hear America Singing," and it's probably included because when Whitman wrote that, there was still slavery, and it's not mentioned at all. And so this is Hughes almost answering Walt Whitman and basically saying, I too do, I sing America too. I'm part of this as well. Every African American is also part of it. And that's just how it's still a very empowering poem, but the still the political reality is still there. All right. So his impact, Langston Hughes' impact, genuinely, I wish he was still alive today because he'd be very useful in this time where there's a lot more public racial strife and a lot more racial tension. He'd be so useful right now. I'd love to see him, if he was still alive, I'd love to see what he would think. Like, we've made a lot of progress, but at the same time, the problem is still there. And I just feel like it'd be very interesting to get his mindset and just to see what he like what would he have to say. But I guess that's part of his legacy because well, I have Amanda Gorman's picture here and I'll mention her in a moment. Because even during after riots occurred in Charlotte, North Carolina back in 2016, the I Too poem was posted in the New York Times. And I feel like people just didn't get the message, or people read it and it just didn't pay attention to it because then we had 4 horrible years of blatant racism in the White House. But anyway, Hughes Hughes is still inspired many African Americans to continue writing poetry and to continue writing, including Amanda Gorman, who I just felt compelled to mention her because she got to tell a poem at the presidential inauguration this year, and I just felt inspired by her, and I just felt like if Langston Hughes looked at his impact from that, or looked at he paved the way, he built the dirt road, or he paved the street in a sense for her to be able for her to be able to be at the Capitol and to be at the inauguration. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to mention is that he always just Langston Hughes always just hid his politics in his writing, and it's not forced. It really isn't. It's always genuinely built in there. It's disguised a bit even. So even if I almost feel like when people other people would read his poems, and they probably wouldn't even realize that there was politics in there. You know? Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to encompass. Here's my works cited. I went. uh, excuse me. I went and cited where I found the poem, and then I also cited the anthology. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and yeah,